He clearly doesn't want us to study him. And the other thing that came up was between those times we tried to study him, he told a couple of stories in front of us at a Tantra course in Santa Cruz. And of course, being young scientists, we had both the desire to be enlightened in the Eastern mystical New Age thinking caps on of like anything is possible. And then we had Western scientific caps of, well, you believe what you can prove. If you can't prove it, it's just a belief, but it's not real data.
Right.
There are real facts. And when you're studying something, it has to be verifiable and observable. And then you need to be able to write it up. So at the Santa Cruz course in 1975 in the fall, he tells a couple of stories. And we're sitting in the front row. And again, we had all of our equipment. He blew us off. And he tells a story that, and he's told us, it's in the collected teachings. And the story is that the way that he got the secret Kundalini yoga mantras is that he hijacked a helicopter at gunpoint at the New Delhi airport. And he had the helicopter pilot allow him to climb down on a rope up in the Himalayas. And he went into this cave, and with gunpoint, he got this Tantra yogi, to give him all these secret mantras. So story number one, science, fact. I said to my cohorts, there's F-16s. The New Delhi Air Force is one of the biggest air forces in the world. If a helicopter had been hijacked by gunpoint by a mad yogi, they would have scrambled him and either blew him out of the sky or they would have grounded him. Two, and I confronted Yogi Bhajan about this at that course. I said, so how come the F-16s didn't scramble you and force you to go down? And, he just talked nonsense. And then I said, and so you climbed down a rope and the helicopter's hovering against a cliffside in the Himalayas. And how long were you with the yogi? And he goes, oh, just 10 minutes. And I said, and where did the helicopter go? And I could see he was stumbling because he hadn't even thought through the story. He had fabricated this elaborate story of commandeering a helicopter, hijacking it by gunpoint, and then going into the cave, and that the yogi gave up all the mantras to this guy, Yogi Bhajan. So that was one story, right? I mean, just beyond believability.
Right.
And yet all of the students at that course were just sitting there, and blissed out and taking it in as if there's truth to it. Mystified. And yet, being, again, a young scientist, I was thinking, this is like lunacy, because it doesn't even add up. And then at another course in February in San Francisco at a Tantra course of 76, he tells a story. And again, he would always invite us to, whenever he knew we were at a Tantra course or an advanced teacher training course, he would invite us to come in and sit with him. And so,
because you're the young scientist, right?
Exactly.
You're going to legitimize him and this body of work he's bringing.
That's right. And so he tells this, and of course, I confronted him about the helicopter, the yogi. I said, why would the yogi give up the secret mantras simply because you walked into a cave with a gun? And I said, and how did you walk into the cave if you were hanging from the bottom of a rope? How did you get from the bottom of the rope? Because the helicopter's blades are like 10, 15, 20, 35 feet long against the cliff. How did you get from the bottom of the rope into the cave? And you could see him just stumbling. And then he made up some crazy thing of swinging the rope, and he was able to swing into the cave. And then the helicopter arrives sometime later, and he's able to jump and vault and catch this rope. And, at 10,000 feet below, it was all bogus. Bottom line, it was just a bunch of hooey.
But not many people are asking critical questions at this point. So it sounds like you're asking a question like, how come? And it sounds like he didn't feel that very often.
He was very rarely challenged by, I think, anybody. And so he tells this story in February of 1976 at a Tantra course in San Francisco, that this woman came to see him, and her gynecologist had told her that she had stage 5 terminal malignant ovarian cancer. And so that she went to see Yogi Bhajan, and he with his x-ray vision looked into her ovary, and he realized that he could, with his fingers, put his hand up inside of her vagina. He wrapped his fingers around this malignant cancerous cyst, plucked it out, and then asked his assistants to bring a bowl of yogurt, and he put yogurt up inside there, and she was healed. And so
he's telling this story as a lecture.
As a lecture.
I see. Okay.
Right? And at that time in history, we were already part of what was called the Khalsa Clinic and the Center for Health and Healing at Cedars-Sinai. And so we were working with Saram Singh Khalsa, MD, who's a very prestigious and highly, highly respected internist. And he and Jaswant Singh Khalsa, current day known as Jeffrey Hawkins, MD, they were two of the very beginning holistic and behavioral medical physicians in the functional medicine movement.
Wow.
And I remember asking Dr. Saram, what he thought of the story. And he's a very devoted student to this day of Yogi Bhajan. And he just shook his head like this. Because he was trained as an internist. And him and Jeffrey Hawkins, Jaswant Khalsa, they knew that this was just bogus, as I did. And so I asked Yogi Bhajan, I said, well, how long ago did this occur? And he said 2 months. And I said, well, why don't you send her for an ultrasound and and get an x-ray too, and let's see how healed she is. He refused to do it. And he just went into blathering, you're being negative, you're not being a devoted, trusting student. And all the while, again, I'm thinking more and more things that don't add up.